Good afternoon. I'm Father David. Thank you for joining me today as we're going to be focusing on the memorial of Saint Dominic and also looking at our readings for today. So, as many of you know, we are in the process of forming a chapter of a religious order right here in Bend, Oregon. And that religious order is a part of the Order of St. Luke, who basically bring the monastic life into the heart of the city and then pray the liturgy of the hours and live as monks amongst us, modeling that sacramental life and the monkhood of all believers as part of that Lucan rule of life and service. So, of course, my ears perked up when I noticed that today was the memorial of Saint Dominic, because Saint Dominic the priest was also a founder of a religious order. He founded the Dominican order in Toulouse, France in 1215. Now, what I did not know, and something I find very interesting, is that he is the patron saint of astronomers and scientists, and also the falsely accused. He lived from August 8, 1170 to August 6, 1221, and he is most noted for his struggle against the Albigensian heresy. And basically what this was it was a kind of Gnostic belief that taught that all matter is evil and that sexual intimacy is evil, and that the followers of this particular belief should not engage in that at all. But obviously, the Bible tells us something different. And we see in Genesis 1:31 that God saw all that he had made, and behold, it was very good. So it wasn't bad or evil, it was very good. And there was evening and there was morning the sixth day. So obviously, God's created matter is not evil. He literally says it's good. And we also see in Genesis 9:7 that God actually commands Adam and Eve to have sexual relationships. And we read here in 9:7, "As for you, be fruitful and increase in number, multiply on the earth and increase upon it." So, knowing the Bible and knowing what the Bible teaches really equips us to fight these heresies and to be able to live the life that God intended us to live in the way that He intended us to live it. So, kind of with that in mind, what can we take from the readings today and the gospel reading that's going to equip us to kind of be able to live our life as we journey that out? Well, our reading today from the gospel comes from Matthew 14, and we see that the disciples, they're all in this boat, they're crossing over the sea when suddenly a great storm comes and the waves begin to throw the boat all around. Now, anyone who's ever floated down the Deschutes River or been on rough seas out in the ocean, you know just how much power the water and the wind can have when you're in a boat. But what I like is how when the disciples see Jesus, he's demonstrating something supernatural in our reading. He's walking on top of the water. Now, in the ancient world, the water was oftentimes associated with chaos and lack of order. And so we read, like in Genesis 1:2, for instance, "Now the earth was formless and empty, darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters." And then from that point, he starts to order creation. Then in Isaiah 43, we see how kind of these waters are also associated with our emotions and raging situations in our life. So in Isaiah 43:2a, we read, "When you go through deep waters, I will be with you. When you go through rivers of difficulty, you will not drown." And so we see God demonstrating power over water a lot. We see Moses parting the Red Sea. We see Noah floating above in the ark, that sort of thing. So in a very allegorical sense, okay, Jesus walking on the water is a demonstration of his ability as Christ to rise above the powers of chaos, to rise above the storms of life, which toss our emotions. And, you know, Jesus is able to maneuver, literally stroll in harmony above these elemental forces of life. And this is something I think Peter sees as the possibility that comes through Christ and kind of having that relationship, trusting relationship with Christ. So the supernatural ability to rise above the elements and the storms of life as we fix our eyes on Christ. So in Matthew 14:28, we read, Peter said to him in reply, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. That's how we respond to the storms and waves of life. And how we do that, how we respond to those, are directly related to where we're putting our focus and our attention. So basically, if like Peter, as the story unfolds, we focus on the waves, if we focus on the problem, how big it is, the storms, how out of control it is, how chaotic it is, the more focus and attention we put on that, the deeper it's going to pull us into it, right? So Peter starts to sink in the story. But if we can just keep our eyes fixed on Christ and the peace and the harmony that Christ brings, then perhaps we can, like Christ, walk on those waters and maneuver through the storms of life with peace and harmony. And, the interesting thing is, Saint Dominic, the priest, he was, as church tradition holds, the one that received the rosary from the Virgin Mary in a vision in 1214 during a prayer time at the Abbey in Prouille, France. And you want to talk about something that will ground you in that harmony of Christ. Take up a habit of praying the rosary every day, and you'll see that the rosary is actually a weapon in the hands of Christians. In a way, it's a calming tool. It's something that can help you to kind of navigate through those storms and bring you back to a place where you're focusing on Christ, because all of the decades and mysteries of the rosary focus on different aspects of Christ's life, and it's just a good way to bring you back. So what is the application for today? It's this: when the waves and the storms of life come, don't focus only on the problem. Yeah, you're going to see the problem, but focus on Christ, and he will help you rise above them so you can maneuver through your journey. And my prayer is that if you're going through some kind of struggle right now that is like a storm in your life, that as you focus on Christ, you will sense Christ extending that hand to you like he did to Peter and pulling you up out of that storm and giving you that ability to maneuver and walk through that situation as if you were risen above the elements of the chaos and the problems that come. Well, thank you for joining me today as we looked at the memorial of Saint Dominic. And if you don't have a habit of praying the rosary, well, there's no time like today to pick that up. Thank you for joining me.